Hello, right. Welcome back to our next session, and this is a good one for you. Almost finishing up the day. Remember, those of you that are HR World community members, if you're an HR community member, you have a kind of this is a treat for you, right? Treat for you. Remember, towards the end of the day, once a day, you get the chance to go backstage once the session's over. Go backstage, and you go backstage, and then the discussion goes forward with the moderator, with a host, and that conversation continues as well with the panelists and the speakers as well. Right, this is a panel discussion, a healthy panel discussion, all about talent management and development, and really why this topic has become so complex recently, and getting real life examples from some featured global HR leaders. I'm intrigued as much as you are really to hear how this panel discussion, healthy discussion, is going to unfold. And I'm going to welcome now the man who's going to shape this conversation, certainly in the right way forward, digital learning and transformation advisor at Tuturutu, Mr. Nikola Jovanovic. Nikola.
Hi, Peter. Thank you.
Hello. How are you?
Yep, my company name Tuturutu sounds even funnier when you say it.
Tuturutu. What does it mean? What does that mean?
It's just a funny word.
It's a funny word. Hopefully I say it well, and with no meaning whatsoever, but it's funny. Okay, listen, Nikola, I'm going to hand it over to you now. I'm intrigued to hear this conversation, how this is going to unfold. Towards the end, if there are any other questions from our listeners, I'll come back on and join your conversation and ask those questions. Okay.
Thank you. Stop wasting my time. Go, move. Thank you. So hi, everyone. I'm really thrilled to be here. HR Week is one of my favorite HR conferences and projects, just like HR World Organization. And this topic, the talent management and actually talent management and first-time managers issues and charges is something that I've been working a lot lately, the last couple of years, and then researching and talking to clients and all that. And but actually before that, can you just give me my speakers, my panelists inside, so that I can see them? Hi, everyone.
Hi.
Happy Thanksgiving for starters, for you that are celebrating today, and we have people here from all sides of the world. Actually, it's an amazing group. But before I introduce them, let me just introduce the topic and why we chose it. I'll try to be as short as possible. I don't want to waste any time because we have amazing panelists today. So this topic of talent management and first-time managers is a very interesting topic, especially in our region, because whenever I talk to clients, whenever we touch upon the topic of talents and first-time managers, somehow we always come to an idea of how it should be, but somehow companies always get stuck. Like they define the process, they define first what the talent is for them, and this can be anything. They choose the talents, they create a talent pool, and then somehow they get stuck because so many questions arise at that moment. Should talents be recognized as special with a company? Does that affect other employees? Should their development be connected to succession planning or not? How long should they stay in the talent pool? Who is in charge of the process? What are the expectations from them, and what do they expect from the company during this period, etc., etc. So a bunch of these questions arise also for first-time managers because all the companies, small, medium, and large, choose first-time managers from time to time, usually from their experts pool. But then should their development in the first-time managers program be about skills or about leadership, and all these kind of questions. So when I was preparing for this, I thought, okay, I have an amazing group, and thank you, Anna, for helping me bring Dana and Steven here. And thought, okay, how should I approach this? And I said, okay, yes, I talk to my clients and I talk to a lot of HR managers a lot, but this is still somehow, anecdotal, incidental. And so let's do a quick survey. So we created a regional talent survey, a very short one, where 57 companies, small, medium, and large, from all industries, like finance, energy, retail, IT, pharma, you name it. We have a very good sample of 57 companies from the region participated. And we got some really cool answers that I actually want to talk about today with Dana, Steven, and Anna, because they're bringing experience from all different kinds of companies and on a global level. So I will just quickly, literally in 2 minutes, just say some main findings, and then I will hand it over to you to introduce yourself. So in this survey, we realized that while most companies obviously define talents as performance versus potential, this is the most usual way, right? We have 17 companies answering that they define talent only as potential. They don't care about current results, which is a very interesting thing. Also, very interesting for me was that 34 out of 57 are developing talents for future positions, while 23 out of 57 are developing them to be better at current positions. So this is a very interesting thing for me, and I'd like also to talk about that today. Also, like the biggest dispersion, to put it that way, was around sponsorship, because I thought, honestly, before I conducted this survey, that in most cases HR is sponsoring and running talent programs, but in a lot of companies, it's a board that is running the process of sponsorship or sponsoring it, CEO as well, line managers, or even all of them in some companies. So I'll stop here with these findings, and as promised, I will deliver these findings in a LinkedIn post, and then I'll send it to participants next week probably. Back to you now. I want to quickly introduce who I have here today, and this is an amazing group of people. So I have first Dana Eberhardt, who is a Chief People Officer at Mod Pizza. But she's also bringing Mod Pizza is, I don't know if a public in the region knows, but it's the fastest growing pizza restaurants chain in the North America. I still haven't tried one, but I will as soon as I'm back in the USA and when this COVID crap stops. But she's also bringing experience from Starbucks, Expedia. And what I also liked when I was researching about her is that she's from Gonzaga University, which is my favorite NCAA team, and I try to follow as much as possible. Then we have Stephen Lockhead, who is a Senior VP Global Talent Acquisition in Expedia. He's also bringing experience from his previous employers like AstraZeneca, Unilever, Standard Life, and also Standard Chartered Bank. And why he's so interesting is because he's coming from a very challenged industry in this pandemic, and I think he has a lot of experience with not just acquiring talents, but also trying to keep them in the company, which is really hard in these days. We have Anna Mitrašević, who recently started her position as a Senior Vice President People at Delivery Hero, which is one of the largest delivery companies in Europe and in world. Actually, you look in 4 countries or something, yeah. But she's also bringing her experience from eDreams, Thomas Cook, and Expedia as well. She's, I guess, one of those talents that ran away from Steven and Expedia recently. So we'll talk about that too. So nice. Yeah. So now I give it back to you, and if you could quickly, just say something interesting about you that I didn't say, and perhaps comment at the same time, so we don't waste any more time. You comment on this talent definition thing, on how do you define talent? How did you define it in companies that you work for? Why is it like that? And also, very important to me is, do you develop talents for future or current roles? So maybe we start with Dana.
Yeah, thank you, Nicola. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Great, thank you. Hi, everyone. So just a little bit about Mod. We have about 500 outlets or stores and 10,000 employees. And so our front line, about 9,800 employees are all in our stores. So quite a large population is sitting in the field. And from a talent perspective, we're really looking at, everything that we've touched on so far, developing talent from within, promoting from within, how we ready those employees for their next steps, and then how to continue to plan that succession. And so I think all the topics we have here today are really important. I think one of the things that differentiates from my experience in retail that might be slightly different than how I viewed it when I was at Expedia with Anna and Stephen is we're really focused on what I think of as pivotal roles. And so in some companies, you think about maybe critical roles or those roles that are really brand building or differentiators in your company. It might be something like data analysts in Expedia or developers in a technology company. And at Mod Pizza, which is obviously highly retail, we're focused on things like store managers and shift supervisors. So we think of those as pivotal roles because without them, we don't make as much money. Our employees are not as happy. Turnover happens more frequently, and we don't have a pipeline for our future. And so as opposed to looking at individual roles, we're really looking at these big talent pools and trying to focus on how we get those roles right and get the right people in those roles, and how do we keep them and help them be as successful as possible. So I'll leave it at that for now, but I think that's a differentiator between my experience in a retail company with a lot of frontline workers versus a technology or more of a professional services kind of company like Expedia.
Makes sense. Thank you. Stephen, what about you? Who are you and how do you define talents and how do you develop them?
Well, you're asking some very deep philosophical questions there, Nicola, and who am I and what defines me? But my original degree subject, an interesting fact, was a degree in theology. So if you or anyone else want to get really deep during this conference or afterwards, let's go deep.
We'll go backstage afterwards.
Exactly, we can do that. So look, a couple of things. I think the good news is Expedia Group is returning, I think, to some of its full business cycle when comparing where we are now coming out of the pandemic to where we were, particularly in markets like the United States, whereby we're seeing a real surge back around some of our vacation rental business and car rental business. We're not there yet, but I'm sure that everybody connected into this conference is looking forward to a time whereby we can travel again a little bit more frequently and get out and do the things that are going to be feeding our soul. I've been really lucky and privileged enough to work over a huge amount of different sectors. And maybe what I thought I'd do, Nicola, to answer your question is to give you what is my sense at this point in my career around what talent is from all of these different sectors I've worked in, including Arthur Andersen and Walmart and other companies that you mentioned. Well, first of all, my own personal philosophy is that absolutely every single employee is talented and I would consider is talent. And I've got a really tough time actually thinking about the talent management process, segregating against those people that have talent and those people that don't, because I just think that it's up to everybody to really unleash their people workforce to optimize strengths. However, I also believe that some talent have more potential than others around doing bigger and more sizable complex roles in the future. And I think the companies that do that best are those that are prepared and are brave enough to externally validate potential in their organization against what's happening against their peers in different sectors and outside of their industry spaces. I'm not going to mention any of those models of potential in particular, because there are many of them, but I would really encourage people to really hook on to a validated model of potential to substantiate whatever your own particular company is trying to do. So I'll leave it there for now, more later.
Okay, this is very interesting because Dana is pointing at specific roles and positions, and you say that everyone is talented, but yes, some have more potential and all that, which is it happens a lot in Serbia and the region as well. We have companies that just say, hey, all our people are talented, and we invest in everyone, and we give everyone equal chance and all that. But then when you ask them also, but who are the people that you really don't want to leave and the company, then they know, and it's always a handful of people. So maybe it's about asking the right question. Anna, what about you? Who are you, and how do you define talents, and why did you escape Expedia?
We'll have another question. Hello, everyone, and thank you for having us today. And thank you for this amazing panel to join us and share the experience. You also asked a question about something interesting about us, which I think Dana and Stephen conveniently skip through. I'll try not to. It is, I'm a head of people. I'm senior vice president of people at Delivery Hero. We have 43,000 employees, and we operate across 50 markets. In the Balkans region, we're not currently present. Until recently, we were through Donesi and similar entities, brands. I have interesting fact, or maybe not. I don't use the word HR. And I think as we talk about talent, it's always easy to forget talent of people function, and it's a very crucial to this conversation how we develop and think about talent within people function. Two reasons for that. I attended an outstanding session on this topic at South by Southwest, my favorite networking event in Austin, Texas, when the vote was up on 1,000 senior people, professionals, and the conclusion was that it's difficult to use the name that you cannot refer people to with. So you can call someone an engineering engineer, someone product manager. It's difficult to refer to people as human resources. So it becomes a term that machines, I would imagine, you would use to talk to humans. Another reason is having spent some time advising companies in the region, one of the companies had developed a tool, HR tool, and they asked employees to vote for the name. The majority of people upvoted the name Herklius, which was for Stephen and Dana a duh facepalm, which kind of speaks to the reference to HR. And I think it's not just a rebranding thing; it's just a real focus on what the function, what we're driving. How we define talent at Delivery Hero is talent refers to all employees, all 43,000 employees. We do not hire non-talented people. At least we'd like to think we don't hire non-talented people. When we talk about top talent, what we take into consideration on top of the performance and potential is learning agility. Learning agility is the third factor in our matrix. It makes it 3D, makes it very real. And the reason why we have worked with external partners and internal talent development team to really be able to anchor and measure learning agility is because we see it as a way to future-proof our organization. Delivery Hero and marketplaces like Delivery Hero are discovering new skills and competencies. So we cannot depend on simply following the key job families in the market. We actually forefront of some of them. Example would be Q-commerce, quick commerce. So Q-marts that are popping up around the world, and they actually replace traditional way of shopping. It's a very distinct skill set that we have to be a forefront because there's even bigger war on talent in that space. So learning agility also, I'm sure audience has come across this piece of information, and the World Economic Forum and the list of 2025 most desirable skills, active learning and learning strategies, the second most desired skill. So we've seen recently Google and Amazon turning from tech organization to learning organization, and that's what is the pivotal to how we look at talent.
Okay, so that means that if learning agility is one of the main things, that means that you are preparing your, let's say, top talents for just for the sake of this conversation, your top talents for some future role or something like that. So you're looking towards future, not towards the current thing, or am I wrong?
So I was interested to learn more about the survey. If participants were asked to select one of the two options, or whether there's an option for them to add more possibilities.
They had an opportunity to add more, but they all show, most of them choose
Yeah,
just one or
so
two?
we do not, and in my experience at the companies you just named here, there's a trend in the market, and it's more predominant in the tech industry, not to think about development of talent in terms of the roles. There's key personas that Dana has referred to in our organization. That's technologists, and that's a broader term for engineers, product managers, project managers, data science and AI, again, subset of that. But also that we develop towards future-proof skills and capabilities. Now, these roles may be different, and the ecosystem is such that individuals will jump to different roles, but getting them with the right skills they're required to ensure they are successful and that the organization is future-proofed. The reason why I think it's really important distinction is throughout 80s and 90s, we all attended classes learning about career pathing and how they was all structured and how a certain level is to another. That's very different to leveling the organization, but the ability for individual to build a multifaceted skills that can be applied to different roles, we're seeing now real. So we're in the midst of big talent exodus and moves, the great resignations, fiercely termed. Many companies may be kind of questioning that because they're right in the middle of it. You typically, when you're in the middle of the storm, you don't sit until the damage to the storm is done, when it's past. We are in the middle of that great resignation. In technology space, it's very painful. It's very real. And we're seeing that the talent is now moving from job families where you would not expect them to go into technology, to go into technology, which is a 2 members of people team moving to tech organization to be people leaders of engineering teams, because they have an excellent understanding of what it requires to be a great engineer. They're great in learning agility. So we identify those skills. They can move people into the areas that are becoming scarce and difficult for us to hire.
Okay. This is a very, very future-oriented and sounds at the same time simple, but also very complex, because I cannot think of ways of how to track and measure all that. But we'll get back to there. Dana, in Mod Pizza, how do you do you have when you want to develop talents, do you have a program, or is it a continuous thing? Is it individual? Is it group based? How do you organize it?
Yeah, we do have programs that are groups and both and individual. I would say, so yesterday we celebrated our 13th birthday at Mod Pizza. So we started in 2008. So we're fairly early on our journey. So we have pretty developed programs for how to do your current job. So that current state. So you can imagine with 500 store managers and 200 district managers, et cetera, we have a lot of people doing the same types of roles. So those programs are quite detailed and focused and well used and developed. We do have we're probably more focused on individual support for leaders as they get higher into the organization. But we're really focused on the people skills. So Mod Pizza is a very people-centric company. We're really focused on, it was founded in 2008 with the idea that we wanted to give employment opportunities to people who had hurdles or barriers to employment. So we hire a lot of people with disabilities. We hire a lot of people who were formerly incarcerated. We hire a lot of people who have been homeless and need a place to go and find a sense of belonging. So there's actually a lot of things that we're doing outside of those roles. So clarity of what the job is and what it requires is important, particularly in these first line roles. And then we're finding ourselves really having to augment that with things like life skills, how to open a bank account, how to just getting financial stability and understanding is a real hurdle that we are still trying to support. So we have a unique employment group, I think. So it doesn't mean that we're not focused on the things that every other company is doing around talent, but we do have, I think, some unique areas that we spend quite a bit of time in.
Mm-hmm. But is talent development, so talking about talents, the stars or whatever they are, is that connected to I don't know how to put it, succession planning, or is it do you have some expectations from them, and vice versa, like when you invest some special time and funds in their development, do you expect them to grow quicker, or how do you see that?
No, we're looking at it a little bit differently. We do need people to grow into our higher level roles and along that journey. So don't misunderstand. But I do think we are looking at, when Anna talks about a learning culture or a learning agility, our employees are, I think, quite diverse in terms of what their learning journey is. So we're trying not to compare somebody with a developmental disability with somebody who is a college student looking for a part-time job, and how quickly or not they can move up into the organization. And so there's a part of Mod Pizza that is trying to meet people where they are and support them as individuals, as opposed to a huge talent pool that has to move along the journey at the same time frame. Mm-hmm. And so it's a little bit of a give and take. I think it's hard for me to answer some of these questions in a black and white way, because it's all like yes and. So we are preparing people. We are incentivizing them to move along move up the chain into different roles, because we need that. And we're trying to get them to feel successful in their current role and move along the journey in the right way for them. If that helps.
Okay. Yep. Absolutely. Stephen, now for you, because Expedia is pretty much technology company. It relies a lot on technology, and as you said, tech people are very important. How do you know that you succeeded in talent management and development? And the other question I have for you also is, who is in charge in Expedia of talents? Is it a sponsorship from C-level, or is it I don't know? Is it HR running it? Also, sorry for all these questions, but we don't have so much time, and I want to squeeze as much from you as possible. And the third one is, did you ever had a situation where you get stuck, like when you create a talent pool and then you do something with these people, but nothing really happens, like they don't grow, or they don't take positions that you meant them to take, or something like that? And how do you deal with that? So I guess tell me everything about talent management at Expedia in a couple of minutes.
We'll try and make a start, Nicola. Let's see where we get to. And of course, we've got the after conference back stage as well. Mm-hmm. So look, let's start with who owns talent management, first of all, in Expedia Group. And I want to be kind of very honest, and I also want to be very provocative with all of you as HR professionals as well. I would say that right now, it is the people function that owns talent and talent management in the company. And I'm just not sure that's where our endpoint should be. And I say that because I don't know about you, but the employee experience is delivered holistically by the people leader. And unless we can unlock moving from process to talent experience, I don't think we stand a chance, and I don't think any other company stands a chance either, for that matter, of shifting that forward so that employees are very clear about where they stand in the broader talent landscape. And people leaders also understand their relation around what are they doing as talent brokers, talent developers for their own people, and how are they enabled and how are they upskilled around their capability by the people function. So I have to say that right now, talent is owned by the people function. We have a number of programs that are moving forward this year to bridge the gap that I've just outlined. And I think some really exciting things now that we really want to put a premium on mobilizing the learning agenda. I think much of this is linked to what Dana and Anna have really already put a brilliant spotlight on, which is all this thing around learning agility. I'm a great believer that every single day an employee comes to work, they should absolutely have a chance to think about a small thing that makes a big difference to either their personal or their professional growth. And unless we see the world of work like that, which is almost an opportunity of micro experiences that happen every single day, I think we've lost the fundamental opportunity around, as human beings, we spend so much of our life at work. That's a lost opportunity. So I'd start there around the ownership and what I think is important and the transition that we're on. Let me talk to you about maybe when things don't happen, when we fail. And I really want to encourage the fact that I think I failed a lot in my career in talent management. And I think companies also try their very, very best and sometimes don't get it right. Let's talk about when we hire a leader in from the outside and for whatever reason they don't work out. We've had our fair share of onboarding leaders into Expedia that come from literally the great and the good tech organizations. And I would determine success at the moment around, are they with us after 18 months? And if so, have they brought differentiation and distinction to what they do around how they lead, the followers that they've inspired, and also the capability that they've brought that we didn't have before. And when I see people leave before that, ultimately that's a failing for the company, and it's a failing on the people leader because we have not created the right environment and space for that person to thrive. So the onboarding part of not just acquiring talent, but making sure that capability that we don't have needs to have space, needs to be nurtured and grown, is absolutely critical. And apart from that, I mean, I just think that, again, we need to have the right kind of spirit that goes through all of these activities that we're kind of mentioning. And part of that, as I mentioned before, is around just seeing every single day as an opportunity to make that difference. Are we doing things like making sure that actually people have not feedback conversations, but actually we take the time to have coaching conversations with people when actually we see them make a great presentation or something that didn't quite happen the best it should. So again, this whole philosophy of incremental gains, if we did that every single day, imagine where somebody could get to at the end of that particular year. I'll pause there for a second.
Okay, but how do you? Maybe that's something that we can learn from your failures and mistakes. How do we see that this can happen? Regardless of whether we acquired super talent from the market or if we grew someone, how do we know that we are doing something wrong and that he or she may leave or that he or she is not growing into what we hoped for? Like, how do you measure that?
I think there's some really simple things that we can all do around putting some guardrails in place around making sure that people are set up to succeed. One of them is around do leaders have a really good sense of what their objectives are within their first 30 days of joining an organization. Anything beyond those 30 days, I think, is really enabling that person to drift, potentially find their own feet, which can work, but it's actually left to luck as opposed to design. So getting objectives in really early with that particular leader in the context of this example of onboarding, I think is really important. Secondly, let's have a look at the shadow of a leader around the mood and sentiment that they create within their organization. I think these days that's measurable. I think that one of the great things that Dana did when she was at Expedia was to bring in an organization called Humu, which for those of you that don't know Humu, that is Laszlo Bock's latest enterprise since leaving Google. It is a very good mood and sentiment engine that gives people a lot of feedback around what is the organizational climate that they are creating. And I think it's very easy to look at both retention and engagement indicators from that. Now, whether or not you use Humu, that's completely irrelevant. but you need to understand, okay, what is the environment like that we can measure and sample? That's really critical as well. So they'd be two very specific things, Nicola, that I think could be set up, that could be monitored and measured. And if they're not looking healthy, and if there's no kind of open-mindedness on the part of the leader to tap into them, then I think there are some warning signals there that we need to pay attention to.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I was just going to add one other thing that I have learned on my journey. Culture cannot be, I guess, ignored around the types of people that you're bringing in and whether they're going to thrive there or not. And I've seen, some of my experience at Starbucks, I was there for nearly 14 years, has a very strong culture, people first culture. And if you're not wired in a similar way, or you don't have a learning agility, back to learning, to adapt into that culture, it's very difficult, especially if you're bringing people in at a senior level, to onboard them in a way that gets that followership that Stephen talked about, that creates the right sort of forward moving direction from a leader. And I've seen time and time again, we used to, sort of feels like organ rejection. The organization just sort of like forces that person out in a way. And I've seen it where we've hired for the right skills and capabilities, but not the right leadership capabilities. And so to understand your organization's culture and what's required and what's expected of leaders, both in terms of their technical skills, but also their leadership skills, and making sure that you're looking for those in the hiring process, I think or in the succession planning process. We've had great technical leaders that you promote into a people leader, and all of a sudden you're not only missing out on the technical skills, but you're now creating other issues. And that is so painful in an organization.
Yeah, I've seen so many times when fantastic experts are pushed into management and leadership roles, and they fail. This happens in all industries everywhere. But somehow, and I don't know why is this still the thing that. Well, at least in our region, that experts are, in most cases, like I think 90% of cases, are less paid than any level of managers, which is
so you have to figure that balance out of how do you continue to develop and compensate, or whatever it is, with the technical experts as you do with the people leaders.
Okay, Anna, we kind of forgot about you, but I know that you are very excited also about the topic of best and worst experiences in talent management. And I actually, this is something that I think our listeners and viewers can learn from you, is to share if you had some, maybe personal, maybe just from organizations that you worked for, some really good or really bad experiences in talent management, like you invested a huge amount of money in somebody and he leaves straight after, or that something failed, or that you organize a talent pool and a group of 20 fantastic people, and something went bad with the vendor, or I don't know what. If you had any of these experiences, Anna, please.
Sure. I'm not sure if I'm really excited about that topic, but I definitely like to I'd like to think a good understanding of the marketplace and what success looks like. And I'm actually not going to go into naming and shaming mode, but there are certain characteristics of great talent management practices, and I will be also sharing some example for people if they want to go in and find out more. It really touches both on what Stephen and Dana have talked about. And number one is each step of the talent management process, or the overall arching principle of talent management, needs to have an outcome behind it. What is it driving to? What is your talent management initiative or program or investment going to yield? Is it about the performance? Is it about the retention? Is it about preparing for growth? These things do not have to, it can be more than one, but it's very important they're not mutually exclusive. That's really, really important thing. So they're starting with an outcome, very clear outcome that's aligned across the organization. Number two, employee experience by design. It's critical. I think earlier this week there was Employer Experience by Design session. If attendees haven't read that book, I cannot recommend it enough. And what that really means, employee experience is not just about what does an employee want and how do we give them. There are three components of that. I think the presenter talked about. One was what is right for the person, what is right for their work, for anyone else in the business who's going to do their work, and what is actually right for the company, the culture, what Dana was talking about. So is this experience going to break their leadership model? Is it going to break the cultural values? Is it going to step on the values of the business? So employee experience is really important by design. Which part of the employee experience journey do we want to impact? Is it promotion? Is it being really successful in the current role? And some of the great examples I would mention, we have moderator now joining us, which is my cue. We had a fantastic meeting with Oracle about a year ago, this group here, in which we learned how their promotion decision really sits between people team and the most senior technical leaders. So deciding on a definition of the principal and the fellow in Oracle is that the bar is set by the group itself. Now the people team works very collaboratively with them to then work on the entire ecosystem of how do we hire at that level? How do we prepare for that level? How do we ensure people are successful at that level? And that bar gets moved on an annual basis. So it is really done by and owned by practitioners, with people team acting as strategic consultants to then make sure that the rest of the ecosystem really follows that. It's absolutely beautiful model. And if attendees want to do more of that research, that's fantastic. The second one emerging, what I see in the marketplace, we have just started building it, but I have seen it in a number of tech companies, is that women in leadership, because diversity is a huge question. Women in leadership is the coaching and, again, the mode of delivering female leadership development, including smaller groups of specific coaching cohorts to develop future and current female leaders. It's outstanding. I'm very happy to share more details. I'm conscious of the time. Bad examples are those who are very, very isolated and and generic. These are the typical experiences when you go in and say, this is an hour of my life of training and I'm never going to get back.
Yeah, that's the best one. Time really flew. I thought we had 10 more minutes, but
no, I'm afraid not there, Nicolau. Here's the thing, we've got a couple of more minutes left before we go on to the next session. But listen, we've got a question that's come through, and I'll open this up for all of you, starting with Stephen. How do you motivate leaders to lead if they don't feel comfortable in that role? I mean, maybe it's because they're in the wrong role, but I'd love to hear your take on that, starting with Stephen.
Well, I think, first of all, you've got to impress upon a leader what their greater accountability is. And the way I do that is that I always incorporate within my own viewpoint on talent management and the talent world, what are the things that are important to the enterprise? What do I mean by that? If all that we're doing is simply inspiring a leader to think about their own team, their only small business unit, their only part of a company that they're in, we are really constraining people around their own motivation, around the impact expected of them and what we can motivate them to do. In other words, any and all leaders are enterprise-wide leaders, and it's up to us to make sure that they can play a role in helping the company improve bit by bit, as opposed to just what they've been brought in to do. So I always appeal to the enterprise. So
looking really at the bigger picture, wider than their own kind of lens that they're looking through at the moment.
100%.
Dana, what would you say?
I first want to know, are they not motivated to be in the role, or are they just not comfortable? Mm-hmm. And if it's just a lack of comfort, they really have the aspiration to be a leader, then I think it's a little bit of, how do you get them comfortable? What are they not comfortable with? Is it giving feedback or coaching, or maybe they were promoted as from their peer group and it's uncomfortable because now they're in a different role? And so to me, it's really, if that's the case and it's just about getting them comfortable, then some one-on-one coaching or role playing or matching them up with a mentor, having them think about some questions around what are they uncomfortable about and how do we get them there?
Right, so it's looking really at the elements of that leadership role and
Yep.
those elements that they're uncomfortable with, and try to sort of fill that gap. And lastly, Anna, what would you say very quickly?
Very similar question: do they want to be in the role or not? Talent management responsibility is to give people opportunity to grow without having to choose between being individual contributor and manager. Gone are the days when we had to push people into management to earn higher salaries and to have voice heard at a higher kind of level of management above them. Outstanding talent management models allow people to be subject matter experts and to be as valuable in strategic decision making as leaders. If it's the latter, to what Dana said, if it's the latter, that to a point, it's identifying and making. Actually, number one, it's everyone was uncomfortable being a leader at some point. I don't know a single leader who was born to do the job, or maybe claims every day in television they're born to do a job and everything. We've seen maybe a couple of those characters, but not actually in the environment of the work. So making people actually understand that it's a journey, it's a peak, it's like a growth spurt. It's actually hard periods and amazing periods. You're winning it. Identifying what are these commonalities that actually that particular leader is finding off-putting in leadership and helping them, but also making sure that they have fundamentals of what good looks like in management and then in leadership, and that goes across any job and any job family.
Thank you so much. Some great insights there. Nicola, I would normally hand it back to you now. I'm not going to do that. I'll tell you why, because you're going to take everybody very shortly backstage to the backstage area where HR community members have a treat, because they get to go there as well with you. Everybody else, I'm afraid this is where we say goodbye to our panelists and Nicola. So thank you so much, Stephen, Anna, Dana as well. Thank you so much for your insights, but maybe number one, for your time, because I know you're very busy. Thank you so much.
Thank you all. Cheers.
Thank you all. See you in a backstage immediately.
Right. What an interesting, intriguing session. We are now moving on to our very last session of the day, learning as we go, scaling L&D function big time. And I'm just going to go straight in now and invite our speaker right now,